This is my Kawasaki ZX-10 from 1989, which I introduced to you in the last video, alongside another bike I've been working on. Now, I paid £1,000 for this. It's in very good condition. However, it hasn't been on the road for about 10, 11 years, something like that. As a result, the fuel that is still in the tank will be no use. The brakes are kind of stuck. They kind of work. They're kind of stuck. They'll need stripping down and rebuilding. The carburetors will be gummed up, I would imagine. The battery's flat, as standard. And yeah, it just needs a little bit of tweaking to get it back on the road. So the plan for today, see if I can get this engine running, press the starter button, see if it goes bangity bangity bang. It's probably a bit silly trying to recover this battery because I think at least 2 of the cells don't have any liquid in them at all. I'm going to top them up with deionized water to the levels and try and charge it, but I'm not holding out much hope. As I suspected, this cell's full, but it's actually completely dead. It's not charging at all, so off to Halfords we go. Right, new battery. So I bought this bike from a company you might have heard of called Trade Bikes Direct. They do some great prices on some great bikes. Go check them out. I'll put a link to their website in the description. They've got different bikes every week. So if you're looking for a project, go check them out. They don't sponsor this video and they don't give me like free bikes. You know, I pay for these. So I fitted the new battery and the guys at Trade Bikes Direct told me that this will actually run using Easy Start. So the first thing I'm going to do is try that. And if that works, that means we've got spark and compression, just a fuel delivery problem. So let's open the roller shutter door so I don't gas myself out, get some spray, take the seat off again, which was easy because there's 2 access vents to the airbox just there. So I can spray the Easy Start in there whilst pressing the button and we'll see if it actually fires up. In case you're wondering about the CBR that you can see right there, that is another bike that I got from Trade Bikes Direct. You probably saw it in the last video. Same sort of story, been abandoned for a little while, needs to be recommissioned to get back on the road. However, that one has some kind of major electrical problems because it's got an aftermarket alarm system on it. So that's going to be fun to dig into. Right, ignition on. Where's me speak English actually. Where's my Easy Start? Okay, simple as this. Spray that in there. Make sure it's in neutral so it doesn't go flying off into oblivion. And then see if it actually fires up. Ready, Teddy? Right, so the starter motor works. Right. Open throttle so that the Easy Start can get into the cylinders. Okay, so it does fire and kind of run. So that's good. We've got some sort of compression and we've got spark. And it sounded like it was running on all 4. So that's a win. However, we now need to sort the fuel delivery problem out properly. I suspect it's a carburetor clogged issue. However, I also suspect there's a problem with the starter motor. Not the starter motor, sorry, that's working fine. The fuel pump. I can't hear it working. Normally when you turn the ignition on, you get a and the fuel pump starts pumping fuel into the carburetors. Some bikes I know only run the fuel pump when the engine is running, but I'm pretty sure this one runs when you turn the ignition on. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's a problem with the fuel pump and the carburetors. So without further ado, let's get this tank off, which involves taking these side panels off, I think, to get to the bolts that are holding it on. There's some trim pieces around here that look like need removing as well, so it's got our work cut out for us. I'm going to shut that door though, because as much as I love the sunshine, it is too hot. So the side panels just pull off after you've undone the bolt, which I'd already undone because I took the seat off. And they're just pushed in via these rubber grommets and these plastic tabs on the panel itself. Now, these are prone to snapping off. And as you can see, that one has been repaired in the past. So pop this one off, I'll take the other side off, and then that reveals these bolts here, which appear to be attached to a bracket attached to the tank. So I'm going to undo those four, and then take off this piece of trim here that I think will give me access to the bolts at the top. See that one in there? Bit of an awkward one, this one. So while I'm doing this, if you're enjoying this, why don't you go and hit that subscribe button just below the video there, because then you'll be able to see all the future videos in your inbox when I upload one. I hate these plastic tabs. Gosh. Don't snap, don't snap. Don't snap. Oh. If that's not worth a subscribe, I don't know what is. So we'll get these 4 bolts out of here. 2 on this side and 2 on this side. I'm also going to pop this breather pipe off of here. Oh, I might need to go get a tool to get that off. Or I can just risk breaking a nail. There we go. Take that out of the little clip that it's in as well. Job's a good one. Right, ignore what I said about removing trim and stuff at the top, because this now lifts up, yeah, and kind of comes out of where it's seated. So there is a fuel gauge on this bike, because it is very high top-notch technology, which means I need to unplug the fuel sender unit. And there is, or should be, a fuel line attached to it, which that's not a fuel line, that's a drain pipe, so that can just come off there. The fuel connection is the other side. Right, so the fuel line is down here attached to the petcock via, one of those really handy kind of like actual fuel hose clamps, which are really easy to remove if you've got a pair of pliers. You'll be amazed at how handy a piece of wood is when you're working on a motorbike. So we'll pop that there. I'll bring you around here so you can see what I'm doing. So just here is the fuel line coming off of the petcock going to the carburetors. And I just need to get that clamp, take it off of there, and then hopefully the fuel hose will come off really easily. I was surprised at how easy that came off. Okay, cool. Now the tank should just lift off. Bum 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 bum. Do you know what? I don't know if you can see this. This looks really clean. There's a little bit of surface rust on it, as you can see, but there's no leaks, hence how there's loads of fuel in it. And the petcock actually looks really clean. I wonder if I turn the petcock on, if fuel will come out. That's a good test, isn't it? Okay, let's go for on and then reserve. Fuel is coming, oh, it's not really coming out, is it? It's more of a dribble. Oh wait, there we go. It's because the tank's really tilted. All right, well, that's amazing. I can't believe the petcock actually works and doesn't leak. However, I don't think fuel is supposed to be brown. Well, not that kind of brown anyway. Yeah, this definitely needs draining. That was a bad idea. Now, the airbox rubbers feel like rubber, which is quite unusual for my luck. So I think now I've taken that strap off, the airbox will actually just, yeah. Well, that couldn't have been easier, could it? Simples. I find it quite strange that the airbox is bolted to like the back of the engine, and the only 2 inlet ports are there facing the rear, and there's no kind of pipe work or anything to feed the fresh air into those holes. I feel they could have redesigned that slightly and maybe got a bit more power if like the air was being forced in there. I'm no bike engineer guy though, so I'm assuming the guys at Kawasaki knew what they were doing. Right, anyway, waffling on, let's get these carburetors removed. So I need to remove the speedo cable, the choke cable, and the fuel line. Okie doke, rock on. So the fuel line's got a hose clip on it, and then hopefully it will come off that T-piece without snapping. Hurrah! Oh, leaking fuel. That's kind of a good thing. It means there's fuel in the carburetors. Actually, that's a bad thing because the fuel in the carburetors will be bad. Okay, so now that's disconnected. I've just got to disconnect the throttle cables. There is a push-pull system on this one and the choke cable. So I'm going to do that, and then there's 4 clamps, one there and one for each of the other carburetors, and then hopefully this lot will wriggle and pull off. I have removed all the cables and loosened the clamps. I think this is going to come off really easily. Famous last words, but I just think it's going to be my friend. Sorry, I reacted weirdly then because I thought I'd hurt myself, but I didn't. Oh, what's this cable down here? Oh, okay. Forgot about the... Oh, sorry. There we go. When the idle adjuster screw just popped out of a rubber grommet from the side. So there we have it. I kid you not, easiest set of carbs I've ever had to remove. However, getting to the bottom throttle cable was a bit tricky, and I think it's going to be an absolute nightmare to put back on, but cross that bridge when I come to it. Right, let's get these on the bench. And a brief inspection of these rubbers shows that they're actually still rubber rather than plastic, which is what happens if they're too old. I think the carbs will go back on in these rubbers absolutely fine. I'm going to clean them up because they're grubby. I'm just about to stuff some stuff in these holes as well to stop stuff that I don't want going in the holes. Anyway, it's also given me access to the fuel pump, so I can check that out and maybe replace that if I need to. I think I can probably test it on this plug, but I'll have a look at the wiring diagram and see where we're at with that later. It's the next day, and I did a little bit of research overnight about the fuel pump. Turns out, according to the manual, that the fuel pump only activates and runs when you either press the starter button or the engine's running. And then once the floats in the carburetors hit their limit and no more fuel is required in the carbs, it shuts off. So I'm just going to hit the starter button without the carburetors attached to see if it actually squirts any fuel out of the pump. Here we go. Whoa! Yeah! Fuel pump, good. That's actually genuinely amazing news, because I think that might mean once I've done the carburetors, it will actually run and be good. Fingers crossed. Only time will tell. Right, let's crack on with those carburetors on the bench, get them back on the bike, and hopefully fire up, get it running. By now, you'd have seen me clean and sort out many sets of carburetors, so I'm not going to bore you too much with this. But first things first, I need to drain the fuel out of them, some of which is already on the table. This fuel is kind of green. It looks like if you mix fairy liquid in water. Alright, I'm just going to let this drain for a minute, and then I'm going to wipe up my table to minimize the amount of fuel I get on me. If you're a regular subscriber, you'll know how much I get covered in fuel and oil and grease and all sorts of stuff. So the more I can get out now, the less I get everywhere when I take them apart. They are kind of dirty and greasy as well. Love the smell of old fuel. It just reminds me of my granddad and his shed. Because he's got, well, he had a field. So he had a sit-on lawnmower, which was obviously petrol powered. And he just smelt like petrol all the time. Okay, I'm going to first take off this and just get it out of the way. This is the idle adjuster. So just unscrew it, don't lose the spring, and just pop it there for a minute. I might just get some carb cleaner and just get some of the grease off with some carb cleaner and a toothbrush. There we go, carb cleaner. I could do it in this box, couldn't I? Yeah. Let's just give it a good going over. Now let's not forget that this is not a restoration video, this is a resurrection video. So the aim is to get this bike back on the road, so get it running, stopping, riding through an MOT, and then it can go on to someone else that can enjoy it, rather than being stuck in a shed, neglected and forgotten. That's the whole purpose of my channel. And what I do, you know, this isn't my job, this is a hobby. Let's not forget that as well. So I'm not a trained mechanic. Well, if you're wondering, I'm an engineer by trade. I trained in precision engineering, manufacturing components using lathes and milling machines and things like that. And then I got into vacuum science. So, and I'm not talking about Henry the Hoover, I'm talking about thin film deposition vacuum. If you want to know what that is, Google it. Right, they're a lot less greasy than they were a few minutes ago. I'm a lot more covered in gunk than I was a few minutes ago. But I think that's good enough to start taking the covers off. I'm going to give them a bit of a wipe down, and then, yeah. Table needs a bit of a wipe down now as well. Okay. So it turns out whatever plastic this fridge freezer drawer is made of is not carb cleaner proof, and it's kind of melted, so it's gonna have to go in the bin. Whoops. There we go, it's a lot cleaner now, it looks a lot nicer. So what I'm going to do is take these 4 caps off here, and I'm going to take off these 4 caps here, removing the slide rubbers, diaphragms, whatever you want to call them, and with the covers removed I'll be able to see all the jets and get them removed as well. So I'm just going to crack on with that. You don't need to see me taking a load of screws out, and then I'll lay them on the bench. Let's not forget this is a Japanese bike, so we're going to be using our Japanese screwdrivers, JIS, Japanese Industry Standard. So they just have a slightly different head to a Phillips, and they just fit nicer, they're just better. And due to the design, you can use a JIS screwdriver on a Phillips screw, but you can't use a Phillips screwdriver on a JIS screw because you'll just end up damaging the head. Top tip, when you take them apart, lay them out on the table in the exact orientation that they were in the carburetors, because sometimes you'll have brackets attached to these mounting points, which means they use slightly longer screws. In this instance, every single screw on this side is actually the same length, but like I said, just be aware that sometimes there can be brackets attached to them, so the screws are longer. Another top tip, using the rubber bit of your screwdriver, once you've removed the 4 screws, you can tap it and then it will come off nicely. Obviously you tap it, not whack it. Now all 4 covers are removed, I'm going to pop these 4 screws out here and remove the floats. Like so, placing them down with the plunger needles attached to them. Normally when you do this, you get yourself a rebuild kit, which will come with new plungers and seals and everything. But I'm actually going to try and do this using all the same seals and jets and bits and pieces. I'm just going to try and see if we can clean it up, get it back together without it leaking and running nicely. Next up, take these 4 screws out here, 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 and here to remove these components here. And with the screws removed, if you're gentle enough, you can use a pair of needle pliers to wriggle out the bit. What's this called? Float needle holder mesh thing, filter. Yes, that's what it is. Next up, I'm going to remove the center jet, which I believe is the main jet. So I'm actually going to unscrew the jet itself from the jet holder. You'll see what I mean in a minute. So I'm going to unscrew them, and they come out separate to the hex bolt that's there. Right, I'll show you what I mean in a sec. So that bit unscrews, and that is the main jet. As you can see, it's got a hole in it. That hole, what you can do is get ones with bigger holes in that allow more fuel in, but we're not venturing down that street, definitely not. And then you get like a spanner on that, and you can undo that bit as well. I'm actually going to use not a spanner, I'm going to use a socket, because that's just better, isn't it? And that reveals this, which has got loads of tiny little holes in, which are probably a little bit blocked up. Yeah, as you can see, you can't really see through the holes because they're full of gunk. And this will be the main reason why it doesn't run. Here's another one, and as you can see, all the holes in that are completely filled with like what looks like some sort of sandy gunk. Right, one last thing to remove on this side is the mixture screw. So this screw in here controls the mixture of air and fuel. And this is what they look like. You'll have the brass pin needle thing, a spring, and what's left in there is a washer and an O-ring, which I'm going to try and remove carefully. And I've managed to use a small screwdriver to get the O-ring out. I managed to get the washer out just by tipping the block of carbs upside down, and it fell out. And there we go. That's as much as you need to remove from that side. And in all fairness, these are some of the cleanest carbs I've ever had to work on. They're a little bit kind of like minging. Obviously, the fuel has been in there for 10 plus years, but they are definitely not the worst I've had to deal with. There is one more jet that I forgot about, which is in this hole. And if you want to remove it, make sure you've got the perfect size screwdriver, else you're going to round the head off of it. And that's what it looks like. So you see it's got a flat head on it. Be very, very careful not to muller that head. Flipping the carbs over, we've just got these 4 covers here with the 4 screws around the outside, so I'll take them off. Removing the cover reveals, a spring and a little castle thing. It's fallen in my toolbox. There we go. And then this rubber seal, if you're careful, you can unpeel it and remove it. And on the inside of it is this long needle. Cool. With the rubber seals, once removed, you can inspect them for any rips, tears, or other damage. These ones look pretty good. And there we have it. Like I said, lay everything out in the exact same order that you took it apart because of things like this. That is a clamp with a longer screw, and that holds the choke cable in place. So now we've got our stripped down block. I'm going to properly clean this up now, including the lids where you can see is a bit gunked up in there. I'm just going to sit here, clean up all these components with carb cleaner and compressed air, and put it back together. There is one small extra thing I want to do actually, remove the choke slide because it's a bit sticky, and then I'm going to remove the choke plungers which are kind of in here on each carb. Note that there is no screw on that one, which I've seen before, and it is for a reason. Can't tell you what that reason is right now though. With the bracket removed, you can clearly see the plungers here. They've got like a little hex head on them and they just unscrew. The one on the end is easy because you can get to the hex, but the others can be a little bit tricky. They're not normally super tight, so once you kind of get them loosened, they will come out with your fingers if they've been put in correctly. So what I did to get them out, I couldn't really do it with one hand holding the camera. I used a pair of needle nose pliers just to nip it off. Then I was able to use this as kind of like a lever to rotate it half a turn, and then they were finger tight. So that's how I did it. There's other ways. Well, obviously the better way is to strip all 4 apart, but I just don't need to do that. Just quickly checking the status of these plungers, and as you can see there, that springs in and out quite nicely. So these are actually okay and good to go back in. For cleaning the jets, I've found that a little set of brushes like this works quite well. As I'm sure you're aware, assembly is reversal of removal. Now, I'm not going to bore you by showing you everything that I'm doing. However, I will say this, most of these components are brass, which is quite a soft metal. So whatever you do, do not over tighten anything and snap it. That would be a very bad day. So I'm just going to sit here, take my time, put this back together, and then hopefully it'll be a good day. Also, don't forget to set your float heights in accordance to your manual. This particular set requires 13mm from the face to the top of the float. Like I said, refer to your manual to get the correct measurement for your bike. And there we go, all back together and ready to go back on the bike. Now, it would be silly of me, given that the access to the spark plugs is really quite good now that the tank is off, it would be silly of me not to do a compression test, so let's do that next. The first thing I need to do is remove the 4 spark plugs. And there's one. That actually looks pretty good. Nice and clean, not too wet or oily. Let's see what the other ones look like. All 4 removed on the table, and they look brand new, to be honest. They don't look used. Well, obviously they do look used, but they don't look bad at all. Okay, they'll be going back in. I have disconnected the fuel pump so that I don't get covered in fuel when I try and turn this over. Oh, I also need to remove the tissue that I stuffed down the holes, else that'll get sucked into the engine, and we don't want that, do we? I'm going to start with cylinder 4 just because, well, that's what I've decided to start with. And before anyone says the throttle needs to be wide open, the carburetors are not attached. So it makes no difference because all that does is pull this cable that's not connected. Okay, here we go. That's pretty good. 140 psi. Cylinder 3. 130 psi. Cylinder 2. 160 psi. And last but not least, cylinder 1. A 165-ish psi. Cool. I deem all of those to have good compression. Bear in mind, this is like a £9.99 pressure tester. I wouldn't guarantee its accuracy. However, they're all within kind of 10% of one another, so win. Top tip, fit the cables to the carburetors before trying to actually push them onto the bike. This is currently upside down because it's easier to get this cable attached to the butterflies when it's like that, and then you can turn it back over to put it back on the bike. The carbs are now fully on. I've reconnected the choke cable, the throttle cables, the clamps that hold the rubbers in place, and the fuel line as well. Next up, airbox, which should just push back on nice and easily. Then the tank can go back on and we can try and start this thing. It was a bit of a wrestle, but I managed to get the airbox back in. But before I put the tank back on, I need to drain it because it's got 10-year-old fuel in it, and I don't really want to run that through my nicely newly cleaned carburetors. So I'm going to drain that out, get it back on the bike, and then go buy some new, fresh, beautiful petrol. Right, I've drained the tank. Wrongly or rightly, I am so confident that this is going to work. I've put the seat and the side fairings back on. I've drained the tank, obviously, and fitted the tank. I'm going to put 5 litres of the finest petrol in it. Then I'm going to turn the key, it's going to fire up on the button, and I'm going to ride off into the sunset saying thank you very much for watching. That's the dream. However, this bike is far from finished. I'm hoping the clutch works, else the riding off into the sunset is just not going to happen. I still need to go through the brakes, so they're binding a little bit, a lot of it. I haven't decided yet because I haven't ridden it, but they need taking apart and just cleaning up, doing a mini service on them. So the brakes need doing, and the tyres need replacing because they're obviously old. But other than that, I don't see why it wouldn't go through an MOT if it starts. So get this petrol in here. cross our fingers, and hopefully the clutch is good. Oh well, obviously also hopefully the carbs are right. Now I will have to revisit the carbs. I'm going to have to balance them and set them up properly, but for the purposes of the video, they should be all right. And then in the next video I will properly balance them. Okay, there we go. 5 litres of fuel in there. Uh-oh. Oh, not sure that locks too great, to be honest. Key in the ignition. I'm going to put this down over there and prepare for awesomeness. This is where we find out I've forgotten something important. Right. Turn the fuel on. So, round this side, I can't really see it. We've got reserve on or off. I'm going to put it on reserve, which is the other way. Yeah. The idle screw I'm going to need to adjust after I've got it running on the choke, because I doubt very much it's going to idle. Here we go. Fingers crossed. First start in 10-ish years, hopefully. I'm nervous. Needs a bit of time for the fuel pump to pump the fuel into the carburetors. Come on. Come on. What have I forgotten? What have I forgotten? Nothing. I haven't forgotten anything. The fuel is on. It's connected. Choke is out, which keeps kind of springing back players who have to hold it. Come on. Come on. Come on. Whoa, 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 whoa. Try again. I don't think the choke's pulling out fully. Come on, come on, come on, come on. I think I can, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. The choke needs adjusting slightly. It's not choking fully. But if I hold it, wait for it to warm up whilst holding it, just needs a bit of adjustment. But I've already bolted the tank down, so I can't really do that in a minute. Oh, my idle screw, of course. Will that help? That doesn't seem to be doing anything. We are idling, and the choke is starting to work. Oh, and it died when I touched the throttle. Just let it warm up, wait and see what happens. Oh, that's too much. Oh, we're in business. Oh, it smells. Oh, that is purring like a cat. Oh, yes. Purring like a tomcat. Smoking a little bit. I'd expect that after not running for 10 years. Smoking a lot of it. Oh, it's running, it's sweet, it's sweet. It is so sweet. Like I said, I'm going to have to balance these carbs properly, but I reckon that smoke will die off after a little bit. Have we got a clutch? And can I say thank you very much for watching. We've got clutch. Right, back to neutral. Okay, I've got no neutral. There we go. Right. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers. It's alive! Oh, and the brakes are truly stuck on. Stalled it. I got my main beam on. Oh, come on. Something's leaking, probably petrol, I've put it back in the workshop and there's quite a leaky drip on the floor. I don't know what it is, maybe clutch fluid, because come the end of my little ride around the car park it decided that it didn't really want to clutch anymore, so it doesn't smell of anything. Anyway, that's for next time.
Never